welcome again to this series of God's Principles for Healthy Relationships. My name is Debbie Raj and I'm here with my husband Martin, and we're happy to be here sharing things that have helped us along the way. And today's topic is Resolve to Evolve, Facing Conflict with Grace. And in James 1:19, we find a very wise counsel. Let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath or get angry. So generally we're very quick to speak, quick to get angry, but not very good at listening. And so this is a very simple yet practical advice. And conflict resolution, how we face conflict, can be something positive or can be very destructive. If we face conflict in a way that it's healthy, it can help us to build, it's an opportunity to build more intimacy, better connection, better understanding towards the other person and to each other. But if we don't resolve them in the right way, there can be a lot of damage done into our relationship. So we're going to go over some bad approaches that actually destroy a lot of relationships, families, marriages, and how to be more aware of those, to not fall into them or not make them our routine and our habits.
Now, the bad approaches is actually taken from Dr. John Gottman. He talks about 4 horsemen. The first one is criticism. There is a constant blaming, personal attack, or accusation. The second one is contempt, which has sarcastic responses, adding fuel to the fire, burst in anger, name-calling, mockery. Third one is defensive, trying to explain without letting the person finish, not taking responsibility. You prefer to put the blame on others. And the fourth one is stonewalling, which is basically a silent treatment. It conveys disapproval, icy distance, and smugness as a way to manipulate and get what people want. So don't forget, there are 4 horsemen: criticism, contempt, defensive, and stonewalling.
So this is what Dr. Gottman talks about as the 4 horsemen that can come and destroy a relationship. And I remember when we were dating for a few months and Martin was like, let me tell you something. You become defensive when I share something with you. And if you always become defensive, try to explain or defend yourself, then I cannot really share anymore what it's my concern because you're not taking it well. And I was like, whoa, I don't want him to feel that he cannot share with me because I try to always make an excuse or defend my position, but I want him to feel comfortable in really opening up to me. But I have an issue with defensiveness, and I actually started praying and asking God, what is the root of this problem? Why do I become defensive? And I basically came to 2 underlying causes. One is that maybe I felt criticized, and I took any feedback, anything that I was wrong, like criticism, and I wanted to defend myself. And the other one was that I was proud, and actually I was not humble enough to say, well, I'm sorry, I did a mistake, or you are right. It was like I couldn't basically accept that I would have done something that was, off. And so a lot of this bad approaches are because of self-centeredness and selfishness, and because we take things personal. So extra areas that we should be aware of is taking things too personal. Like, oh, this person is against me, because it might not be that. It might be there is something that we need to understand better about each other.
And another area of bad approach is taking the victim mentality. We become the victims. We are like, I am poor me. I am good. I'm not good enough. I am always on the wrong, etc. It's very important. Remember Jesus said the path is narrow to heaven. We cannot be on one side nor the other, but we have to be in the middle, and that middle path is narrow. We don't want to become more manipulative and try to control, and on the other side we don't want to become victims where we feel like we are pitiful peasants that we have to live, but we can have a different and a better approach.
There are two verses that go along very well with this area of conflict, and I really was shocked when I read James 1:26, and it says, "If anyone among you think he is religious and does not bridle his tongue but deceives his own heart, this one's religion is useless." I was like, wait a minute, like how many of us or how many people in religion, in supposedly following the Bible, we do not control our tongues, how we say things, how we react, and then our religion is useless if we don't ask God help in this very area. And Proverbs 16:32 says, "He who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who takes a city." In war or in big accomplishments like that, being the leader or the captain or the main person that takes over a city and wins a battle, that's huge. But it says that if we rule our spirit and our tongue, we are even more than that. So that puts into perspective the impact our words, our actions have on others and even on ourselves. So we're going to now switch to good approaches. What are some good things that also we've implemented and we've seen that it's helpful when it comes to facing conflict or differences?
And in the introduction, Debbie said that we all have conflicts, and how we deal with them is very vital, because there are two ways to deal with them. Conflicts, you can deal them with bad approaches, which is just what we saw, and now we are going to see good approaches, which will help us to grow, it will help us to become better people and better at handling how a relationship should be. The first point is you need to remember that you both are a team. So in our relationship, we both are a team. If I have a conflict or she has a conflict, we need to remember that we are coming together as a team. We are going to work together as a team so that we won't make the issue into a bigger one, but actually we can focus on solving it, resolving, and have a better quality life.
So the other part is actually not only our mindset, but also pray. And I remember our first disagreements and conflicts during our relationship. Some were milder, but as you get more comfortable with each other, they become more raw and real. And it is good to face the real thing, not to, avoid conflict or avoid difficult things, but see how you both can grow in that area. And so pray about it when you face that, because it is Satan's desire to actually make us angry with each other and to really have a bad spirit. And sometimes I would feel like, hey, we're really acting like kids. We're stuck on our ways. We're like unreasonable. So this is not normal. Like there is another spirit that is trying to control our tongue, our mind, and make us really upset with each other. And we need to pray and ask God to give us His Spirit and His peace and to calm us down so that we can face it with a better spirit that is not self-centered, but that is really trying to understand and solve the issue, because we're not against each other. We shouldn't be, but look how we can move forward together.
And also another way to approach is to already pray together. Now, Debbie was talking about individual prayers so that God will show us how we can work on differences and conflicts. But now we are going to talk about praying together as a couple. Pray every day how you can grow, how you can come together, because God has to be the center of your relationship. God has to be there as your foundation. So that way you will have wisdom, you will have understanding of each other. I cannot understand Debbie on my own. I need to have God to understand Debbie. And it goes vice versa as well. We need God to show us. And as we keep praying, we will be able to see our own faults and how we can work on it. There is a saying, right? the couple that pray together stay together. So it is a very practical and truest statement, because God is the one that brings you together, and it is only God that can keep you together. And if God has to keep you together, you have to pray together and ask God to show you which areas you both can grow together, because you are a team after all. You're not against each other. It is hard when you're in a conflict, when there is a heated discussion going on, you have an argument going on. It will be hard for you to see each other as loved ones. But if you take some time, pause and think about it, you will realize that this is the love of my life. Do I need to have this type of communication? Do I need to have this type of conflict? How can I fix it so that I can spend a good time with the love of my life? So as you pray together every day, morning and evening, God will start showing you how you can work in your marriage, how you can work in your relationship. Now, the change is not going to be immediate, but it is a starting step. It will help you to a better life, a better family.
Amen. So another area that is so important is give each other actually time to express fully how you feel. So I remember even a few months ago into our marriage, we were talking about something, and it was really like we were discussing, arguing, and not really understanding each other. So I was saying something and he was saying, and we were repeating and repeating and like, no, this is, and you don't understand, and this is important for me. And it was like, we're not going anywhere. We're in the same place and just stuck there. So finally we decided, okay, let's come together, express really what is in your heart. Tell me everything and I'll be quiet, I'll just listen. I want to understand how you really feel. And it's amazing how that can impact, because sometimes we're just arguing, but we're not expressing how we truly feel and what's the issue, what is in our heart. And then you can repeat back, this is what I'm actually, hearing. Is that right? Is that how you feel? And so we actually experienced that was so helpful. And then we gave each other turns to express fully. And we repeated back and tried to make sure we understood, because sometimes we think we understand, but actually is really off our perception of what someone is saying. So give each other time to express fully and open their heart and share their feelings, their frustration, why this is important, why the other thing is frustrating. And don't take it personal, whatever they say, but just listen and understand their heart. And as you express, the more you can express your feeling, this is how I feel, this is how it makes me feel, or I react like this because I'm fearful of that. It's better to understand your heart when you express how you feel and not point fingers like you do that and I'm upset because you always, and all of those general words and accusations tend to hinder good conflict resolution.
And many times we have these conflicts, many times, not always, many times we have these conflicts and it extends more and more because we are not humble enough to listen to the other person. I would like to just defend myself. I want to win this argument. I want to win this battle. That's probably why you are having issue for more than 5 minutes. In fact, we have a couple of friends. They say that when they have issues, they immediately go and pray. When they pray together, after they discuss, they share, they pray together, in less than 5 minutes, their problems are solved. That was so eye-opening to know that, okay, they are giving space for each other, they are having God in between, and it is perfectly working for them. So many times our personal pride, our ego comes into the picture trying to win the battle, but who are we winning the battle against? If you win the battle, you're still losing it because you lost it to the love of your life, right? Take a moment, take a pause and think on that part, because it's very important for you to understand who you are trying to fight it. And the next point is to not sweat the small stuff. Sometimes it is easy for us to make a small thing into a big issue or into a big deal. I remember when Debbie and I, we went to Debbie's aunt's place, we were sharing about our love story, how God brought us together, how the experiences were. And for like few minutes, we both were stuck in one point, and that is, where were we sitting? Debbie was thinking,
When we first met.
yeah, when we first met. When we first met, where were we sitting? Debbie was sitting in one place. We were clear about that part. But we were contradicting, or we were not sure where I was sitting. I remember that I was sitting at the end of the table. She remembers that I was sitting right opposite to her. And we discussed, and we were like, I was telling, no, that is not where I was sitting. I can remember very clearly, that is not where I was sitting. And then she's like, oh, really? I don't remember that. I remember you sitting right opposite to me. And then her aunt tells us the next day, you know, that was not a big deal. What's it going to change? Is it going to change your love story? No, it doesn't matter. It's just showing that you guys were in love. You don't know where you were sitting. That's it. You don't have to worry about that. Sometimes we try to be more perfect and accurate in our steps, but it's useless information. If it has some significance, yes, it is worth talking about it. But if it is insignificant, what's the point in trying to be the right person or be in the right while we are discussing?
And another area is also when we are discussing different things, to be careful to correct each other in private. We don't have to publicly, stop each other and be like, no, this is not it, like the previous story Martin just shared. But in private, we can be like, oh, do you remember this, or whatever it might be the scenario, we can discuss, come to an agreement, or maybe we will not, because we have different stories. And even in the Bible, if you see the gospel, some remember one of the demoniacs, another two, and different details like that. Depending what impressed you the most, you will remember differently. Even if you were in the same location, you may remember it was really hot, and another person, oh, I didn't feel that. So it might be unique differences, and we need to learn to respect each other if need be. Correct or talk about it privately, the two of you, doesn't need to be publicly. And this will impact also later on when you have children, even though we don't have children yet, but we grew up, even I had surroundings many times of family, and instead of discussing things in private, it was more arguments and discussions publicly in front of us as kids. And that makes more insecurity. Maybe the two of you, you're not feeling like you're arguing, but to others, it's like, oh, that's uncomfortable, and that's just not, something is going on there. So the atmosphere, we need to protect as well. Children and others, and even in private, make sure that it's done in a way that we're not destroying and tearing each other down in private behind doors, but that we are truly doing it in the best way as possible to understand each other and encourage each other.
Mm-hmm. And these are some of the good approaches that we have learned, we have been implementing in our relationship and in our marriage. So it is vital for us to know how to have good conflict resolution, because conflict resolution, when it is approached well, you will have good understanding of the other person. You foster intimacy, and you have a better connection with your partner. It is essential to address differences, seek advice, and prevent conflicts from creating barriers. But if and when there are conflicts, that is not the end of your relationship. That can be something beautiful that you can learn about it. And if you have poor approaches towards it, it is going to make it even more worse. It's going to help you It's not going to help you to mature. It's not going to help you to strengthen in your relationship, but it's going to be weaker. And I try my best to always try to understand what my wife is doing and what is her likes and what is her dislikes. I'm not always the perfect husband. I have not always been the perfect boyfriend, but I try my best. And one of those incidences were when it was my birthday and she wanted to surprise me. Now, this might not necessarily involve in this resolve to evolve topic, but it was something funny, and I think it'll be interesting to share, so you'll have a good laugh out of it. So 1 month before my birthday, my wife decides to have a surprise birthday party. She has all my friends, all our friends now, and her brother waiting for us at a restaurant 3 hours away from our house. And we are almost there, like 15 minutes away from our destination. And then I'm like, okay, let's go to the restaurant, because Debbie wanted to use the restroom. I'm like, let's go to the restaurant and use the restroom. Oh, Debbie's response was really confusing for me. She started saying that she doesn't like to use the restroom as soon as she enters the restaurant. I was like, okay, I need to remember this, because I need to focus on those things, because I don't want to have conflict in future. So Debbie doesn't like to go to the restrooms as soon as we enter a restaurant. And that was something funny. Of course, the story behind it was that our friends and her brother, it took a little more time for them to go and reach the restaurant. So they were like, okay, just spend more time outside before you reach the place. So try to be intentional in knowing what the other person is interested in and what they want, which will help you resolve a lot of conflicts.
Yes, that was a fun experience, and he didn't know what was going on, but we exactly knew what we were trying to do to be ready for the surprise. But in this topic of conflict specifically, I know that for me, conflict was a very risky thing. Conflict meant danger. Conflict meant something bad, distraction, like relationship just falling apart. And at the beginning of our relationship, we also kind of had that mentality. And Martin was like, oh no, we cannot have any conflicts. Like, we need to have a smooth relationship. And the expectation to not have conflicts is unrealistic, because we're two different people. We will have differences. We will have, things that don't align so smooth all the time. But how we face it, that's the key thing. And now we can see conflict is not a red flag that there's danger and the ambulance needs to come to our rescue. But conflict is an opportunity for intimacy, an opportunity to grow into understanding the person we love, into really get deeper into their heart and get more binded together to each other. And so now in my heart is a peaceful word. Like boundaries that we talked previously, boundaries was like, oh, that's bad. Conflict, ooh, it's bad. But no, it's how we approach it. And so it's liberating to have healthy perspective. If not, we are running around trying to avoid so many things, trying to make everything look perfect, but we might be collapsing inside. So as we close, we want to leave you again with a challenge. Every episode, we have a couple practical things you can start doing at home or share with someone you know that could benefit from this. So the first challenge is write down the not effective, but ineffective approaches that you've been implementing when conflict arises. And write down better ways you will try to face it next time.
And the next part of the challenge is to identify your bad approaches, right? But if you're unable to identify your bad approaches, there's a challenge. Ask your best friends for feedback and be humble enough to accept their input if there is any.
It's very important to be open, to be humble in this area of conflict resolution, because we all need to grow. And as we resolve to evolve, we will be able to grow and become more like Christ. Relationships won't be the ending, but only the beginning of a better character, a better caring spirit, a better listening ear, a better friend. And so we are excited because as we learn and implement these things, we can also grow and become better people to everyone around us, and especially to our marriage.
Amen.
And by God's grace, be a little piece of heaven on this earth with His presence. So as we end, we hope you will implement this, and we'll see you next time.